Hello from Birmingham. I am here today on a almost rainy, threatening to rain Thursday afternoon with my friends Kevin and Gus, and over in the window where you can't see her, Cagney the cat, who is trying to convince me that it's lunchtime. It's not, but it's always lunchtime in Cagney's head. Anyway, we're all here because I wanted to make a video for you, updating you on all of the books that are out at the moment, where we're up to with each series, and on sort of what the order is that you can read the series in. So let's start with the big ones. Dorset Crime and Zoe Finch. Now, my paperback copy of the Corfe Castle Murders, I think I must have given it to somebody at a signing event. But anyway, I've got a copy of the lovely hardback copy, which they're particularly nice, these hardbacks, because the inside, you've got lovely foiling. So yeah, the Dorset Crime books are all hardback, paperback and ebook, as well as audiobook. And right now there are, let me think. I lose count. I often lose count. But no, there are 11 books out. So the most recent two are the Poole Harbour Murders, which is book 10. Now that picked up the story after a gap of 2 years after the Ghost Village murders. So things have changed a little bit for Leslie and the team. They're all still there, but there are some new faces and some changes to Leslie's role, which she's not always entirely happy about. But anyway, that opens with a murder in Poole Harbour. And then the Chesil Beach Murders. This is the limited signed edition. There are a tiny, tiny number of these left. We've almost sold out of them. And then the standard edition will be for sale. So if you want the really nice one that I've signed, order it very quickly. So yeah, this is the most recent one. Came out last autumn, the Chesil Beach Murders. Gorgeous location. I had so much fun walking around that. And this takes Leslie and the team into a new investigation and a new thread that will be running through books 10 to 18, because there are going to be 18 books at least. At the moment I'm planning 18 books, who knows, there might be more. But books 1 to 9 have the thread of DCI Mackey's death and Leslie working out what was going on there. Here we have a theme that is related to a retired police officer called Eric Childs, who is Johnny's dad. There are things about Eric that Johnny doesn't know and that Leslie comes to discover. And those are initially revealed in the Poole Harbour Murders and the Chesil Beach Murders, and they will come to the fore more, and it will transpire that there are connections to other cases that the team are working on. So Chesil Beach Murders is the latest. The next one, the Beach Hut Murders, comes out in March. So that's where we're up to with Dorset Crime, and that's where most people start. Now, in theory, I guess you should start with the Zoe Finch books. This is book 1, Deadly Wishes, because those are the ones I wrote first. But I deliberately wrote the series so that you didn't have to read them in order. And most people prefer to start with the Dorset Crime books. People love Dorset. They are my best-selling books. The Corfe Castle Murders is by far my best-selling book, partly because of it winning the Storyteller Award. So you can start with either. But Zoe Finch, there are 7 books in this series, going right up to Deadly Christmas, and then Zoe will move. So depending on whether you've already read the Dorset Crime books or not, you then move on to the Cumbria Crime books. Now again, my copy of book 1, The Harbour, is missing. Again, I must have given it to somebody at a signing. This is the latest book in the series, book 7. So I recommend start with Dorset Crime, get yourself up to date on those, then go back and read the Zoe Finch books, and then when you get to the end of those, read the Cumbria Crime books, because these take Zoe from Birmingham to Cumbria. So she moves. She is the star of both series, the Zoe Finch series, the Deadly books, and the Cumbria Crime books. And there will be 8 books in the series. Book 8 is out in February, The Marsh, but we're currently up to book 7. So what you'll probably be doing is working your way through all the Zoe books and then occasionally taking a break to read a Dorset book as a new one comes out. And what you will find when the Beach Hut Murders comes out is that there are connections between the two series. So it's probably a good idea to finish reading the Cumbria books before you read the Beach Hut Murders. You don't have to. If you don't want to read the Cumbria books, you'd rather read around about Dorset, fair enough, be my guest. Do it exactly as suits you. But yeah, it's probably a good idea because there are some hints to things that happened to Zoe and Cumbria in the Beach Hut Murders, but I very deliberately made them vague. Can you hear scratching in the background? This is the cats trying to be as annoying as possible so that I give them their lunch. It's a tactic that works. I shouldn't have taught them that it works. So yes, so start with Dorset Crime and then read the Zoe books and then come back to Dorset Crime at book 12, The Beach Hut Murders, which is where a certain red-haired detective joins the team. So the Cumbria crime books, there are of course 7 right now. There are going to be 8 full-length novels. There are also quite a few novellas in this series. We wrote quite a few novellas to go in between the main novels. They're like sort of little bonus stories. So you don't have to read these to be able to follow the series and follow the story. You can get these in ebook on Amazon. I think the first one, The Castle, I think you can only get that via my website, rachelmclean.com/castle in ebook. But you can buy the print versions of them on Amazon or in a bookshop. The Cumbria bookshops often stock them. Any other bookshop you'd have to ask for them. But they have access to them. They are distributed via the same distributor as the rest of the books. So let me move the books that I've talked about to this side so I know where I am. So that's Leslie and Zoe. We've then got Petra. Now Petra first appears, let me find the book where she first appears. Dr. Petra McBride, feisty Scottish forensic psychologist, first appears in Deadly Desires, which is Zoe Finch, book 3. She helps with a case that is deeply psychological and advises the team. And then she pops up again a few times in the Dorset crime books. So Leslie brings her in to help out, and she also talks to her on the phone quite a bit and gets her to provide input on the DCI Mackey case. So Petra is somebody who's been sort of burbling, if that's the right word. You wouldn't know I was a writer from my vocabulary, would you? Petra is somebody who's been humming along in the background, maybe humming. And then eventually she gets her own series. So her series begins with Blood and Money, which stars Petra McBride and D.I.J. Tanner. And it also features Detective Sergeant Mo Uddin. Now Mo is Zoe's best mate and sidekick in the Birmingham books, the Zoe Finch books. So he's somebody you'll be familiar with. You don't need to have read the whole Zoe story to be able to follow Mo's progress here. There's not a story arc going through the books. There's some personal stuff for him, but none of it is going to be a problem if you read them out of order. But yeah, there is a full series now of McBride and Tanner books. There are 4 books. Blood and Money, Death and Poetry, which is my secret favourite book. It's Macbeth themed. It takes place in some amazing Scottish locations, and I loved writing it. Then Power and Treachery, and finally Secrets and History, another wonderful research trip because it's set on the Isle of Arran and it opens in Lacranza Castle on the very northern tip of the Isle of Arran, which is a truly beautiful place to write about and hopefully to read about. So let's add these to the pile that I've already talked about. So those are the police procedural books. There are then 2 sets of books that are a little bit more cosy. Firstly, we've got the London Cosy series. Now these are going to be getting a bit of a rebrand this year, so they look a bit more like my other books and are recognisable. But for now, this is what they look like. This is the first one, Death at Westminster, which opens in the Houses of Parliament with a murder. And it features Diana Bakewell, who is a tour guide who works on a London vintage Routemaster bus and has a cat that way, Gus, who is a stowaway on the bus, but occasionally does stuff that sort of gives them clues and hints, and Diana looks at Gus doing something and thinks, oh, that sparks something in my mind that helps me solve a murder. She finds herself in the middle of these murder mysteries because she's a tour guide and because she is in these London landmarks where these deaths take place. And so there are 6 books in this series. It's a complete series, and you can read all of these at any point. That you don't have to follow along with the order of them at all. There is a recurring character in them. Zaf Williams is in them, and he appears in the Zoe Finch books. He is DC Connie Williams' brother, and also for a period he is the boyfriend of Zoe's son. But again, there's no story arc there. You can read these whenever you want. And then the other series that is a little more cosy. These are not as cosy as the London ones. They're sort of somewhere in between police procedural and cosy. So there are amateur sleuths in these, but there are also a lot of scenes with particularly Tina in. Detective Constable Tina Abbott, who is one of Leslie's officers in Dorset, and she's a fan favourite. I think people really like reading about Tina, and I know I really like writing about her. So I decided that I wanted her to appear in this separate series, which kicks off in Lyme Regis. These first 3 books. So we've got the Swimming Club, the Empty Easel, and the Shattered Bauble. The first 2 take place in the summer, and the third one is a Christmas book. As you can see by the Christmas tree on the beach. Of course you get Christmas trees on the beach all the time. Not, but it's a book cover and it looks nice. So yes, these books are a lot of fun. They feature Kevin, the seagull, and a team of amateur sleuths who also happen to be swimmers in Lyme Regis. And Annie, the sort of unofficial leader of that group, is Tina's mum. So she's got a friendly police detective from whom she can get information about cases that the swimmers happen to have got themselves involved in. And so often the situation is, who will work out who the killer is first, the cops or the amateurs? And well, I'm not going to tell you what the answer is. You'll have to read the books to find out. But there are 3 books in this series so far. They are the only 3 that will be in Lyme Regis, so you can read them as a full set with those characters. But there will be more books in this series set around the Isle of Purbeck. So the next one will be set on the Swanage Railway. Look, cattail. Here's Lacey. And those will feature Figgy, who is one of the characters in these books. She moves from Lyme Regis to Swanage and finds herself in the middle of some mysteries, which also involve Leslie's team. So those are the Jurassic Coast mysteries. And then for the die-hard fans, if you really want to read more of my books, once you've finished all the crime books, there is my Village series, which starts with Thicker Than Water. The camera is being knocked by Lacey, who is, hello, trying to get in the way as much as she can, so I give her her lunch. So yeah, Thicker Than Water is the first one in that series. They are psychological thrillers set in a sort of slightly post-apocalyptic Britain where there have been massive floods that have displaced lots of people. There's a community that has rebuilt itself on the Yorkshire coast, and then somebody from their past turns up and trouble ensues. So there's these books, and then there's also my Division Bell trilogy. Now, I don't think you can get this version of it anymore because it's ridiculously thick and heavy. This is all 3 books in one, and I had this printed many years ago. But the 3 books are A House Divided, Divide and Rule, and Divided We Stand. And these are political thrillers. They take place in Westminster. I wrote them some time ago, so you'll probably find that some of the things I depict in them as fiction have happened since. It's dystopia, so certain politicians might have done some of this stuff. So if you're really keen to read more of my stuff, there's the Division Bell trilogy as well. And then finally, we have non-fiction, my Dorset Crime Trail, which is available in paperback and hardback. And this, at the moment, covers books 1 to 9. You can read about the inspiration behind the books, and you can do little walking routes around the locations. There will be a follow-up to this, but not for some time because it will cover books 10 to 18. I have to write books 10 to 18 first and then bring out another crime trail. So that is the current state of my collection of books and what is there for you to read. I hope that this has helped you work out what order to read them in and which character is in which, but really don't worry too much. I think it's definitely better to read each series in order, but it doesn't matter which order you read the series in. Pick the one that interests you the most and go from there. Happy reading!